when you have somebody and you get to know them, and it's like, wow, they're human. They have the same struggles, they have the same fears, they have the same joys as I do. I may not understand everything about them, but I can identify with part of them, and that's what's going to move, understanding civil rights, just basic human decency forward, is understanding and being able to connect on a one-on-one basis. So having visibility within our, within our own communities, in our own jobs, that is huge. I'm Meggan Sommerville. I'm 47 years old. I came out on Facebook at the age of 40 after growing up in an extremely conservative Christian home and Christian community in the western suburbs of Chicago. Visibility for the trans community is paramount right now. It's great to have the Laverne Cox, to have the Janet Mocks, out there, speaking for the community, but we also need the everyday person to be visible. And that's a tough thing to ask. A lot of trans people just want to go stealth because they fear what their, associates at work are going to, think, how their friends, how their neighbors are going to react. But it is being in our schools, being in our businesses, being in our communities, speaking for the trans community and being visible is what is really going to change people's minds. My first conversation was years ago, and it was actually with the girl I first dated. The first person I ever allowed to see Meggan, and she was accepting. She didn't quite get it, but okay, whatever. But there were very, very few people that I could trust, and that was one thing that growing up, it's like I don't know who I can trust, who I can, really be real with and be authentic with. It wasn't until really finding myself at the end of my rope being so stressed, so broken, trying to hide who I was on a 24-hour basis, where I finally got to the point where it's like, I can't do this anymore. And, I couldn't come out until I told my parents. My parents live in Omaha, which is about 460 miles away from where I live, and I had a renewed sense of being on that drive. I was excited that, I'm going to stop, pretending, but I was still afraid, and I was still ready. It was two sides, a double-edged sword. If my parents would reject me, I was ready to leave and drive my car off a bridge. I was mentally prepared for that. But I got chastised by my mom for, saying, well, why wouldn't we love you? You're our child. And that's always been very amusing to me. It's just like I didn't get chastised for being trans. I got chastised for thinking that they wouldn't love me. I thought back to things my parents had said, and you, as a transgender person or anybody in the LGBT community, you internalize so many little things that people say, and you take that on a much larger level than probably what they ever mean, but it hits home for you. And to have my mom, there are things my mom had said, it's like, she's never going to love me. She's not going to understand. But, it took her time. But the second trip out to Omaha was on Easter. And I'm going to start crying. I was getting ready for church that Sunday, and I asked her, well, what should I wear? I had been kind of feminine dressing, with them, just kind of easing them into getting used to having a daughter, not a son. And my mom said, wear whatever you want. We're on the way to church. Their church. Wear whatever you want. And it's just like, okay. And then that afternoon, getting ready, packing up, some of my stuff, and getting ready to come home, my mom called me into her bedroom. And it's like, okay. She opened the top drawer of her dresser and pulled out a box and opened it and asked me if I would wear this. And I'm looking at her, not wanting to give away what I was feeling. It's just like, I wanted to say, damn straight I'll wear that. It was this beautiful necklace that I had actually snuck into her room, when I was younger to try on. It's not one of these just everyday necklaces. This is dressing to the nines type of necklace, having your makeup perfect type of necklace. And it's just like, okay, this is not a guy necklace. This is a girl necklace. This is a woman's necklace. And she got it, and it's like, we don't talk about it much, but there's just those little times where it's just like, she gets it, that she gets who I am. It took them time. They had to go through a time to mourn the loss of their son, the person they knew, and get used to relating to this person they're trying to get to know. But in those small little, moments, they get it. They get it. My dad is still not used to, identifying me as, his daughter, because I hadn't officially changed my name or anything like that. Identify, yeah, this is our son. I could see him kind of stop, but I've got mascara on, I've got eyeliner on, my hair is pulled back in a more feminine style, I have, earrings, or, no, I had earrings in, and I'm, my body's developing more feminine, and the pastor just kind of looks at me and it's just like, okay, shakes my hand and, goes on. So it was a little awkward, but then again, it was just, my parents didn't care how I dressed, didn't care how I looked. I was their child. And, that for me was all that mattered. It's just like, yeah, I'm going to draw stairs, or at least the stairs that, okay, that's a guy? It's like, so, but, to anybody else, I was, their daughter, I was the mom to my kids that, there. So, went through a really difficult time last year, testifying in a discrimination case. When they were asked by opposing counsel, about coming out to act as character witnesses and references for me on the stand, my mom's words, it's just like, of course we'd come. It's like silly. It's like, why wouldn't we? And she was asked, you love Meggan, don't you? So it's like, yeah. It's just like, how stupid of a question is that? But what it really meant was that, and what got me through those days was that their love is now part of the public record. It's like anybody who is ever going to read about that case are going to read the comments of my parents and going to realize, wow, these are parents that love their kid. I don't remember much about when we broke for lunch that day. I lost it. I'm down, in the the common area, the State of Illinois building, crying. And I just remember my mom's hand on mine. Can't beat that. You know? Just can't beat that. Yeah. It was July 12th, 2010, and it was a Monday. That was the day that my court hearing was set to legally change my name. And had spent a couple weeks, looking for the perfect, outfit. And I wanted to look professional. I wanted to look ultra feminine and everything. And felt absolutely overdressed in that courtroom because everybody else was in jeans and T-shirts, with mortgage issues and stuff like that. And I was nervous, wondering if the judge was going to be calling what name he was going to be calling. But, at about 1 o'clock that afternoon, I walked out of the Kendall County Courthouse as Meggan Sommerville. And it was the most surreal moment of my life. It's like, oh my God, it finally happened. Something that I had been dreaming, wishing, thinking it was a pipe smoke dream, my whole life, was finally here. Made a stop at my insurance company to change the records there. Stopped by my bank and to change my records there, and received, just overwhelming support. And got home, changed into something more casual, went out to a local Riverwalk Park in Oswego to take a picture so I could put it up on Facebook. And the only pictures I had shared up to that point were some of my photography of frogs and turtles and stuff like that. I didn't have a personal picture up there yet because I wasn't comfortable with it yet. And finally it's just like, okay, dove off the deep end and posted the picture, sent out the kind of the letter to probably about 100 people that I knew well, and sat back and breathed. The support I received from a lot of people, online was great. It was welcome to the club, and I remember one of my friends saying, "Just imagine all the shades of lipstick you can now have." It was playful. It's just like, wow, okay, congratulations, and so it's just like, okay, move on. The first inclinations were, I was about three or four, growing up, in the early 70s, long before anything called a computer was in anybody's home. You actually played it, with your imagination and stuff like that. And there was me and my brother, and then there was these two girls about our same ages, that lived in a house, across the street and down a few houses, and they were at our house frequently. And what do four kids play? They play house. And what do you do when you have two boys and two girls? Well, one's the dad, one's the mom, one's the son, one's the daughter. And those were the moments when I realized I want to be the mom. I want to play the mom. Or at least let me be the daughter. Unknowing to my parents at the time, they're not hippies, anything like that, pretty conservative people, but my mom let me explore whatever I kind of wanted. I like to think I walked the line between gender roles at the time. I loved my Tonka trucks. I loved getting dirty in the backyard, but I also liked playing, with a tea set and playing with my stuffed animals and being in the kitchen with my mom and drawing and all the things that you might think, oh, those are girl activities, or these things are boy activities. I got to do a little mix and match of everything. So it wasn't until, elementary school where, you have real defined gender roles that I started realizing that there was something different about me. And it's like, I don't fit this male role that everybody thinks I should. I was too scared to say anything. In third grade we had a musical. We did the performance of the Nutcracker, and I wanted the role of Claire. It's like every girl in that's the star role, and I want it's like, but no, I got the Nutcracker, and I had to wear that scratchy beard, and I hate it. It's just like it still gives me shivers. But that was the thing. It's like I started, those inklings of this isn't right. So, and that's when that wall started going up, and having to really protect, myself against what others might think. Being very self-conscious, being very self-aware. There were some people on into high school and college, that they saw something in me that they couldn't quite put their finger on. I was often told afterwards, it's just like, there's something about you. You just weren't the typical guy. And many people thought I was gay, and were just waiting for the other shoe to drop. And it was those people that probably have been the closest. It's just like, we knew you were different. Didn't matter. You're our friend. We liked hanging out with you. That sort of thing. Growing up in the 70s, it really, you were called a sissy. It wasn't really the gender-based bullying we see today. I'd hate to even think what I would have received if they knew, Mark wants to be a girl, and I would. It probably would have been a lot worse. I was beat up a few times. One time, a guy hit me upside the head in junior high and caused some hearing damage. In elementary school, I was picked up and dropped in a muddy puddle. But I try not to think about those. One of the biggest things that I learned in this whole process of transitioning was that I went into it thinking it was my transition. I'm the one that needs to transition my life. I failed miserably at understanding that everybody around me needed a transition as well. So I probably was pretty short with some people, and it's just like, get on board or get out. And that was a huge mistake. But there were some people that gave me the opportunity to show them who I was and to learn. There's always going to be those people that are just really demonstrate true love, true acceptance, and accept you no matter how, you're packaged. But then there's going to be those that they need more time. They need more time to wrap their head around it, to comprehend, to understand, to get to know the real person. My favorite part about being me is I don't have to hide. I can be a jean shirts and t-shirt, type of girl, or I can dress to the nines. It doesn't matter. I don't have to hide who I am anymore. I can be whatever. I can change my look. I can change who I am and it doesn't matter. That's probably the best thing about being me, is add all all the other stress, all that kind of crap. It's like it's easy. I can get up in the morning and just be me. One word I would use to describe how I felt after coming out would be content. People ask me, it's like, well, aren't you happy they came out? Happy's an emotional, and it can go up and down, happy, sad, whatever, but if you're content with who you are, yeah, you could still have a bad day, but you're still who you are. And that was the one word that I used all the time. It's like, I'm finally content. I don't have to hide. And that was the biggest thing for me, was, okay, I'm Meggan, finally. The biggest challenge that I see is working together and being a community of really vastly different experiences and different ideas and culture, all within this LGBT community. Some people say it's small, it really isn't, but we have to work together and show the world who we are, that we're not going away, that we deserve the same rights as everybody else. It's not extra rights, Ben Carson. They're equal rights, but we have to speak as one voice and work together, and let our different experiences build and be the foundation to who we are. Around the spring of 2012, I started getting the feeling that God had something really big planned for me. I was back in the church and getting closer to God, and had reconciled being Christian and being transgender, that they were not mutually exclusive and adversarial. And I really felt like there was something, I didn't know what. And the opportunity came along to, I shared part of my story with a writer out of Ireland who wrote for Huffington Post. And she kicked me in the pants and said, you need to be writing a blog. And stumbled across Chicago Now here in the city, and did the application process and was stuck on a name, and I didn't know what I wanted my blog to be about, so I couldn't come up with a name yet. And I left the tab open on my computer for a week. And finally, believe it or not, woke up from a nap, and the name Trans Girl at the Cross came about. Put it in, submitted it. Next day, I get an email saying, hey, I want to, from the community manager, and say, hey, I want to, I want to talk, phone. It's like, okay. And that was the confirmation that I knew this is where I needed to be. There were no other writers that I could find talking about Christianity and being transgender on the line. Usually it was that they are mutually exclusive, and you can't be Christian and you can't be trans. You can't be both at the same time. And the community manager, Jimmy Greenfield, said it's like, you don't often hear being transgender and being Christian in the same sentence in a positive way. And if you take my whole blog, boil it down to one catchphrase, that was it. And that's what I wanted. And thus started now 4.5 years of writing and sharing who I am, sharing some of my struggles, being a transgender parent to my kids, my frustrations with the community, my frustrations with the church, and trying to build some sort of bridge between the two. If you had told me 5 years ago that I'd be on the radio or I'd be standing on stage telling my story, I would have laughed in your face. I've had the opportunity to really push transgender visibility forward, being on the radio, being in national media at times. But I think as much as my blog has given me that opportunity, my legal case has done just as much, has propelled me into the spotlight at probably even more. And I didn't want people to see me as this person who's suing her company for, because of discrimination. I wanted them to see the human part of it. And hopefully I've done that. The journey with my kids has been one of extreme ups and downs. After I transitioned, I went 6 months without seeing them. It killed me. Even now, there is some there's some issues. Unfortunately, I don't have custody of them. So they are in an environment that is anti-trans. My ex and my former in-laws are very much anti-trans. My former in-laws still dead name me in my kids' presence. But they have yet to get to the point in their maturity where they feel they can go against them. So they're kind of caught in the middle, and unfortunately, in the years leading up to the separation and my transition, I was not healthy mentally. So I distanced myself considerably from them, thinking that was better for them. I was an idiot. But I was angry, I was depressed, I was disconnected, and I have spent the last 7 years trying to repair that damage. I'm hoping in time things will be better, but it's always going to be an uphill road. What would I say to somebody? When you grow up in the church and you're in a position like I was, I would say for that young person, reach out. Reach out to somebody you trust. Reach out to somebody you can find who's gone through it before. Even if it's just a single letter saying, hey, I need to know there's somebody else out there. And just be true to yourself. Don't bow to the pressure. Don't give in to it. We lose too many young people because they don't feel loved. They think that they can't be who they are, so they're going to end their life. I've been there. Been there too many times. And I understand that fear that you feel when it would just be better if I died, if I wasn't here. But you have to reach out. There are numerous people online and in in communities that are faith-based, that are going to be there to help you. But find them. You know, you may have to do a little legwork, but find them. They're there, and we are willing to take the time. I spoke a little bit on some legal issues and a legal case that I'm involved in. I can't speak on the matters of it, but it is a discrimination case against a national-based craft store. And it was all a matter of whether or not I can use the women's restroom after I transitioned. And the day after I was on a high of changing my name and feeling like I could be my authentic self, I was told at work that I couldn't be, or at least I couldn't use the women's restroom. I would still have to use the men's restroom. And went from one of the ultimate highs to one of the ultimate lows. And it was about 6 months later when we filed charges against my employer for discrimination. And that was in 2011, and the case is still going on. I don't say this very often, but I still don't feel complete. It has taken something away from me. It's emotionally draining. Just the weight alone is taxing. Every step of the way, I've learned something that there were times when I learned that the people that I thought were my friends at work had stabbed me in the back. I don't trust it as easily anymore. And it's taken a huge emotional toll. Had nightmares. Prior to some medical issues, I would limit the amount of food and the amount of fluids I would take so I wouldn't have to use the restroom at work. If I did, I would wait till my meal periods and go across the parking lot to a restaurant and use their restroom. So I was in kind of a constant state of dehydration. And it's just, the moment when it's over will be the most freeing point in my life. And this is in a state that has protections for transgender individuals, and a company has chosen not to abide by them. Told you we need Kleenex.